And we welcome Dr. Leahcim Semaj, noted author and psychologist. Hi, Leahcim. Welcome.
Hi, Ronnie.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Dr. Semaj, how are you?
My brother Purnell.
I am going up to our school sometime this next month.
You two, you have a school?
Wait a minute. You don't know that is a city university.
Oh, I see. Of course. I beg your pardon. That school, you got the high school, the high school.
No, man, I couldn't go to the high school. Man.
No, understand.
His school was high school, mine was low school.
We're clear. We won't go into that. Leahcim Semaj, need your wisdom.
Yes, sir.
What we're finding is that, although we're not wanting to talk about it, that children are going back to school and they are mentally wobbly because of the experience of COVID, the fact that we really haven't caught up with what they missed, and many of the socialized or the habits for socializing that they had before have atrophied during the time away. We had other instances confronting us recently about social patterns. I was struck by the fact that the convicted members of the One Order gang in large numbers complained or tried to seek mitigation because they had never had a father figure in their life. Is the social order, Dr. Semaj, the foundational structures of our society capable of taking us to the wholesome social order that the Vision 2030 calls us for?
Not without a lot of assistance. That 2030 is just words on paper.
Oh my God, listen to that.
I have seen nothing which are addressing the process by which we make these things. You know, there's a concept in anthropology called, the cargo cults.
Yes.
Whereby persons go through, they try to enact the rituals that they see modern societies do. Like they go to the airport and just stand up. Mm-hmm. Because there's people go to the airport and goods come. They don't understand that you need to do something else. You know, they sit on a table and pass papers around the table. And they see people do that and get money. But we're not far removed from that. You know, let me just look. There's a basic structure. Two structures I'd like to share. One, anger is a legitimate emotion. It triggers for all kinds of reasons. But violence is a destructive behavior. The two don't have to be connected. And socialization is what helps us to understand what to do. How do you channel your anger? How do you fuel it? Because actions fueled by anger can be very satisfying, but oftentimes regretted. You know, so we're having these problems. Ronnie, home is the first school. Parents are the first teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Everything after this is called extra lesson.
Wow. But then in a situation where, for very traceable reasons, Dr. Leahcim Semaj, Honorable Purnell Charles, we have a weak home system. We used to have a stronger one with the extended family. We don't have that in a large proportion of our
population. Many instances, yes. Well, let me depress you further. In modern society, now, Jamaica, we're trying to build a modern society, aren't we?
Yes.
We say we are.
Yes.
Now, there's a concept called, when we talk about violence again, how it works. Do you understand that in modern society, what political theory and sociology and all of that tells us? The state has a monopoly on violence.
Yes.
I mean, you know, right. But guess what? I don't think that has been taught to our people. So before we got to the level of state, we had tribes and clans and various levels at which, even just take out children's rights. You know, my daughter, who is on the Supreme Court, and I did help her with her paper, her final paper in law school.
Yes.
Where
wonderful.
I understand the concept of the child's best interest. how in Western jurisprudence, children were initially father's property.
Uh-huh.
Huh? And then the evolution now to mothers almost. And then now we're at the point where what's in the child's best interest. Now, a lot of people still don't understand that transition, the child's best interest. Now, violence, it's the state has a monopoly on violence, or ought to. That's why legitimate use of violence, what can be done, and the state can give individuals some limited parts of that power, correct?
Yes.
They tell you what you can do in self-defense and what you can't do, right?
Yes.
But I don't think we have been really explaining and teaching Jamaicans this, that violence, it's the state who has the power. If I have a disagreement with, if right there between, you're sitting next to Pernell, and there's a disagreement between, you can't just box him down, you can't just lick him. Because the state didn't give you that power.
Yes.
There are mechanisms. You report it, you do, and we say we have these things, but we don't teach people. So at school, there is a disagreement between students. All right, what is the next step? You go to the teacher, you go to the principal, whatever. But I can't think of any level in Jamaica where we're actively teaching these things. Look how many, every time you hear about a shooting or a killing in a community, then you hear about prepare for the reprisal attacks, the reprisal killings. So you understand that we are operating almost a level of clans and warring factions. That's why they talk about warlords and dons, because power exists in the various levels way below the state. And children live what they learn.
Dr. Semaj.
Mr. Mayor, I must be the only person who say that a lot of this also stems from corporal punishment. When you hit a child, you teach a child 4 things. Somebody disappoint you, you can hit them. Somebody disobey you, you can hit them. You're bigger than somebody, you can hit them. And children learn this. Many perpetuate it. Others like me decide I will never ever hit my child because I remember what it felt like when my mother brutalized me. So we have a lot of things to work through beyond just talking.
Do you see the sense that those who have influence over behavior, over the rules and the canons, the norms, do you see us confronting these things properly, positively? Because we're for example, we've banned corporal punishment in the schools, but we have not given the teachers the training or the tools for alternate behavior modification.
Don't go as far as the school. We ban corporal punishment so that your boy in your own yard, your boy, can tell us if you touch them, they're going to talk to the police. So before you reach the school, it is also in a yard.
But I want to know what your thought is. Well, because the majority of people many people will say, all right, so you shouldn't have banned it. But then the point is we do things halfway rather than giving them a positive approach to do something different. Leahcim, am I right?
Absolutely, because if you're going to do that, there's other things that, before you became Minister of Education, Ronnie, I think somebody who preceded you, I went and I offered a package because I estimate about 15 boys back then in each school were in the departure lounge. I was told that there's no budget for anything like that.
Well,
I said, but if we don't find the budget for it, the school is the last chance.
Well,
we will just shift it to the Ministry of National Security and Justice plus GCT.
Yeah.
We have done that.
Can we just pause there? When we sentence a man, as we did in the courts recently, let's just use a rough figure for 40 years, Mr. Charles, Dr. Semaj, do you realize that the public has made an investment of close to $100 million? Yes? That's the cost of keeping him there. In the worst condition, yes, probably not to be reformed, whether that is possible or not. Yes, but that is what we are doing. When I'm not saying it, I'm not excusing what he did, nor am I saying it is a linear correlation. But if we had a different approach to socialization, it would seem to me that you would avoid many of those instances. Am I right?
Absolutely. About 2 years ago, I had the privilege of speaking to some boys at Hilltop. Hilltop
Yes,
Juvenile
yeah, man.
Center. And there's a line I always wanted to use, and I had a chance to use it. And it goes like this: now that we have your attention. Now that we have your attention, you're not going here for a while. Let's talk. Because long ago, we needed to start setting up some alternate institutions for children who are beyond the capability of parents and of schools. Children in need of care and protection. That's not necessarily a prison. It's a situation where the kind of direct socialization has to be carried out. And when we talk about this, we need to get them some soldiers to manage them and so on. It's more subtle than that. Ronnie, I have intervened where a parent has come to me with a situation where this boy is totally out of control in the community. And there's a particular, let's call it, John Bosco is an incredible place. You know that.
I do.
I went down to Sister Susan and said, Sister Susan, could you take this child for 3 months? We're talking off the record. And Sister Susan facilitated it. Because what I realized, that child needs to be taken out of Kingston, out of the community, to go somewhere where he'd learn a trade, where he'd interact with control. I remember when I did an evaluation of all the children's home in Jamaica, Alpha came out as number 1. And when I spoke to Sister there, how do you do it, Sister? She said, when the boys come here first, after a while, if they start to really not settle in and misbehave, there's a room I let them sit in for the day. And I asked them to reflect on 3 things. What was your life like before you came here? What will your life be like if I ask you to leave here now? What's the possibility that could happen if you spend some time with us? She says that 99% of the time, just that day of reflection.
How do we...
Dr. Semaj, let me tell you something that's bothering me. And you use both words, anger and violence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, when a child is angry, my dad was saying stomach full of not food.
Bile.
Him begs.
Yes.
So if another child touch against him, like down at BB Court,
Or Stair Town yesterday.
him knock him down. It is something that is not coming from there, because when he was leaving, he might have never pray with him and send him to school.
Yeah.
He might have run him out, him not get no food or something. So you touch it 2 words. How do we get rid of the anger that is creating the violence that is in the society?
My brother Colonel, when I start by saying anger is a legitimate feeling. It's an emotion. What people need to learn is what to do, how to manage it. You know how early we start? From children are the terrible twos, where the 2-year-old goes into a temper tantrum. That's the earliest version. I have seen some parents do some classic things. You have seen them on video sometime. The child is in the middle of the store, and the child and the mother just walks away. When you come to your senses, I'll be outside. The child sits there for a while and carries on and realizes it's not being rewarded, it's not being reinforced. So even we start learning how to channel anger. A lot of young people never learned how to. You will always feel angry. My classic anger story, I was angry when I was in 5th form and I got 25 out of 100 1 month before physics exam. And the teacher told me, don't bother take the exam, just study something because clearly I can't pass it. I was so angry, I went home and read the physics book from cover to cover and got a distinction.
Wow.
And you're backed into the violence group. And to come out of that, you have to be the more violent one.
Well,
it's not that you're back into a group where you're taught, or you're re-educated into a wealth of something.
Socialization is making human.
Yes.
I mean, that's the principal job of a parent. School, we have that. Look, one of the problems in Jamaica, when we went to the 2-shift system, we thought we were providing more pedagogic input. but we also lost a lot of the socializing agents and activities. Because where was the time we're going to have Cubs and Girl Guide and all those other things that are providing the socialization? We have lost a lot of those things.
Yes.
So the whole process by which we socialize to make the child human, to make the child learn how to live, and even when we talk about this thing called violence, that if we say we're having a state, the state has a monopoly on violence. I can't remember any context in Jamaica where anybody taught me that, realizing that you're not supposed to. But think of it, football, you're playing football. If somebody tackles you, bad tackle, what are you supposed to do? You appeal to the ref. And what happens? If you take on yourself to put on the person, chances are you get put off the field. Correct?
Of course.
But you were taught that. Somebody taught you that.
So why are we teaching our children things that are not serviceable?
Why
going to change
why aren't we having teachers for the children that they're having?
Yeah, well,
because they themselves need to be taught.
Well, who has control over that?
Absolutely. But you see, but guess what?
Who has control over that?
I'm convinced their parents, and I can say we're in a contradiction.
I want to
tell their children that if anybody lick you, lick them back.
Yeah. Sure.
Anybody do you anything, do them back.
Yes.
Their parents who are teaching their children that.
Sure. So what is the society doing? And those who operate the society, those who have influence, those who control resources, those who are in a Minister of Children's Affairs, those who are in a Minister of Education, and I take full responsibility for my tenure there. What are we doing in order to create an antidote to this? Or are we simply analyzing it, wringing our hands, and doing what?
Nothing.
Well, I won't say we're not doing anything, because first thing, several generations you have to go back. No. Some of those who are having children now they don't even know what.
No, but brethren, that don't help me, because the children are there, except you're going to kill them like some people want to. Yes, before or after birth. The children are there. So understanding the background is only so that we can be more accurate in predicting and planning a solution.
It is so easy to talk.
No, don't.
And so hard. No, it is so.
There is
Dr. Leahcim Semaj is a psychologist, right?
But Leahcim, there is nothing to prevent the government or whatever agency commissioning somebody like yourself to revise a curriculum for early childhood education, which would lead to emotional health. Am I right?
And give it
absolutely, absolutely. But nobody say no. Look, again. I heard a program on Love FM this morning, and when they're talking about the question they were discussing, should there be a Ministry of Family Affairs?
What?
A Ministry of Family Affairs.
Yes, sir.
You know, something where and I said, what an interesting construct. Because we have totally forgotten what that is supposed to be, family affairs. We're talking about socialization.
Yes.
Because, again, with all what's happening, gentlemen, I don't blame the children, because they did not raise themselves.
Leahcim, hold your thought. We need a break. We're coming right back. Are we going to be able to redirect the Jamaican family pattern in according to what form, which tradition? And then we have to turn to a book that Dr. Semaj has written. Coming back soon on The Public Eye. This is The Public Eye on the Bridge 99 FM. The Honorable Colonel Charles and I are talking with Dr. Leahcim Semaj, noted psychologist, public servant, and now author of books of importance. Leahcim, before we get to the book, what dream for us? What should we do to get over the fact that so many of our children come from circumstances where they don't have the consistent influence of conscious parents, and where they go to schools where poor behavior on service of latitudes towards education abound?
First, we have to hold parents accountable. If we can't, if they don't respond, you just identified a figure a while ago. The cost that for keeping people in lockup.
Yeah. nearing 2 million now.
Yeah, a portion of that funds, we need to provide some earlier intervention. There are a number of boys and girls who are in need of care and protection and resocialization, which goes beyond the capacity of the average teacher and the average school.
Sure.
So we really have to create some such institutions and to pull people out, whether periodically, because my initial model had a thing for when you're going to interview that child, the parents must come to the intervention too. If the parents don't turn up, you escalate to the next
level. You know
level.
the problem.
Exactly. Then you have to move that child to an environment where the child will get more direct supervision in moving them in the socially desirable direction. But you see, where the politics come in now, boy, those are votes, and you don't want to do anything unpopular because you want a bit popularity contest and so on. Here we go.
Yeah, but
that saying?
Yeah, but then, so you lose the votes by doing something positive, and the other person who takes it up can't do a damn thing with it and finds themselves in the same situation.
They say it's foolish she was doing.
Well,
because you're trying to stop them from doing what they want to do. There's a society, which feels that what they're doing is the best thing. You give them rope.
Yeah, but how do you build a coherent society? Is what I'm trying to get out of this discussion.
I don't know. I look like I'm throwing my hands up
in a hut.
Yeah.
Look, the same way we can agree. All right, you provide PATH funds, but it requires more than that. A lot more than that, because where is the socialization input being triggered? We're seeing it from very early with some children who are beyond the capacity of the parents and beyond the capacity of the school. Those children disrupt the school process so much, it impacts the learning of all the others. We have to find a place for those children where we can treat them in the same way. There's a model that treats violence and crime as a disease, Somebody who has a disease, and by the way, emotions are more easily transmitted than any known virus. So a child who is chucking badness and antisocial behavior, he can disrupt the entire school system. So the same way, you'd have a place where you can move that person so they're in isolation, they're separated from impacting and infecting the others while you treat them. There's a model.
Yes.
There's a model, and we have to be bold enough to do it, because what we will do is kick the can further down the road.
Yes.
But Dr. Semaj, where should we... listen, it's so nice, It sounds so good if we could get it going even
but
schools.
Why can't we, sir?
Well, can we get it done in one parish?
Well, my view is that...
Can we get it done in two families?
My view is that we should. The churches are quite able to do it. They have many schools. There are others that are run by trusts. There are others.
The churches meet once a week. Either Saturday or Sunday.
No. Some are that, but they have many more
cultural
tentacles than that. They own or control almost 50% of all the public schools in Jamaica. So my point, Leahcim, is we want to clarify the idea, and I think if it's put before people, given the real deconstruction of the society, many people will adhere to it and want to build back, don't you think?
Absolutely. One thing, I started an intervention, and I said the problem with stealing and such, because of the commandments are in the wrong position.
Yeah.
We need to get thou shalt not covet earlier.
Yeah.
Because it's covetous make a thief.
Yeah.
Right? So every school in Jamaica come September, during the orientation, what you're told, when it's changed for PE, don't leave the clothes unattended, walk with your clothes. I said, no, we're not. We have to stop doing that. The orientation is, people must be able to put down their clothes and their book. If you take up something that's not yours, you're stealing.
Yes.
Every school has adjusted to that on the assumption that it's thieves coming in to the school,
yes,
and they're going to steal your stuff. If we took a stand with something as basic as that, can you imagine taking a stand on that? Anyone who takes anybody...
Sure.
No, but we just think that there are children who go home with a book. Mama, find a book. Mama said, what a way you're lucky. See if you can find a bag tomorrow. So that the places we can start, and we can start with one school, with one group of schools. Yeah. Can you imagine if a teacher if a principal, if a school board had the will and the capacity to start making these kind of decisions early, when you see a child who is beyond the capability. Look, if a child had a bad virus, we'd want to get the child insulated and isolated so we can cure, we can help the child.
Yes, that's the
That's
reason.
what we need to start looking at it from that perspective. So that child will now move on from grade 1 to 2 to 3 and then get to 7. I heard a politician point out that in his constituency, something like 70% of the children in grade 7 can't read.
Yeah.
Let him hold a word right there, because I want you to do something for me. I need you to help me. It was better 70 and 60 years ago. It was better. More children were more disciplined, as they would say, have more manners. Parents were more concerned. They were going to parent-teachers meeting. Headmasters was in charge of the school.
Why?
And we used to have it, all of these things. And if a boy bad, somebody was there. The policeman was arraigned.
So what has
The
changed?
teacher, what? No, I want you to tell me, where have we gone astray? Who has gone astray? Is it the children, the teachers, the parents, the police, or the politician? Who has gone astray? Because things have completely turned around.
There's so much to unpack, because guess what? You remember back in those days, the level of power that existed in communities. Nurse and teacher, their salary was subsidized by the community. Every time you go to nurse or a teacher, you walk with something. Remember those days?
Yes.
I'm postmistress.
Yes.
Huh? But no, with all due respect, politicians, have tried to separate a lot of that power from the community now to centralize it under the MP will take care of that, and the MP will take care of this, and the MP will take care of that. So that politics has superseded many of the local activities that took place at the community level. And we don't, when we say we used to take a village to raise a child, we don't have villages anymore. So that, and then we have a lot more distraction now. Mass media. We never had that then.
No.
Thousands of cable channels. So that the socializing agent of a parent, one parent,
Yep.
is being bombarded and counteracted by thousands of other input. So it makes it that much harder now.
So therefore, the effort has to be far more intense.
Much more intense.
Yes,
much more intense.
I do not know of another forum on which these issues are being put as sharply as I was here, and that is both. That is a reproach. This should be the business that the Parliament is talking about.
Absolutely. Not just, it's all good and well to be praising the boys who intervene and so on, but the root issue.
How it happened?
The root issue. And many versions of that happen every day in our school system.
Which frankly, again, the criminal law pressing aggravated assault charges against this fellow who did this horrible action to his school colleague. That is not going to solve the problem, Doc.
Not at all. Not at all. So that you're right. That is what should be discussed. How do we intervene before it gets to the next level?
Yes.
Those are just symptoms of what is happening in this society.
Well,
there are so many of us who know the problem, but we talk about it.
I'm talking about solutions right now, sir. That situation in BB Coke Junction
Yes.
ought to be dealt with in a very different way, not the way that it's being dealt with at all.
How do we
Are the parents involved?
I believe they are, but
It's
The first of
Dr. Semaj involved?
first, I don't know. No, he wouldn't be involved.
No, somebody need to tell me why a guy would beat up a little one that way.
But the first thing you have to do is look at it, is talk to him, talk to his family,
Yes,
understand the situation.
Maybe never eat.
Understand the culture, all that.
Maybe coming from a no home.
You have to understand the culture of the school, which I happen to know has taken very important positive steps in recent years. But simply saying we're going nice gesture of the Prime Minister to reward these boys, while others were taking pictures, and some argument is that some big man who has a connection with the school drove past, saw what was happening, and pressed the gas. Yes, if that is so, he should be fired from that job right away. Yes. Secondly, the chap who is charged has to be looked at with very, very careful attention. And if there's malice and if there's whatever it is, that will have to be punished. But there's obviously much deeper issues at work in him, and I believe his kind at that school. So it's not just a question of relating a problem. Is this something that we know what to do about, Dr. Semaj?
We know what to do, but do we have the will, the effort, and the time to do it?
Yes.
And the extent we don't, we just kick the can further down the road, and we'll raise the cost.
Well, there you are.
Dr. Semaj, you're going to tell us what is in the book that is guiding us.
I want to hear this now.
What Ronnie is asking you. Come on, give us some of that.
Spend a few minutes with that.
The title of the book is The Best Is Yet to Come, a psychologist's guide for thriving in retirement.
Say again, no, the best is yet to come. Okay. You
a psychologist's guide. Now, why I say that, I have been for the last 20, 30 years, whenever I'm in a company and somebody's going in retirement, and we have a session for them, a discussion, people say, why didn't anybody tell me these things 10 years ago, 20 years ago? So we have put together the knowledge base that you need to thrive in what I call the anchor leg of life. The anchor leg is the strong. The anchor leg is that final leg. You run into the tape. And that is what I see as that process. The best, and then how to make it the best period of your life.
But then it's a time when very often mobility is decreased, sickness overtakes you, inflation ravages whatever savings you have made, disappointments about unachieved aspirations clog your brain, doubts about what happens after death, perhaps remorse of family.
But guess what? That is because you did not start thinking about it early enough and plan and prepare for it.
Okay, so the book is not only for those at the anchor leg, but those who are preparing for it?
Those who are probably it should be early as leg 2 or leg 3. The earlier you start putting the information. For example, do you know, Ronnie, that the best drug for longevity is something called exercise?
Agree quickly, Pernell. Hear what he says? The
number one drug.
The best
to
drug
facilitate longevity is exercise.
Is exercise. This is a man who plays tennis every day, you know, sir.
But more than that, you start to lose muscle mass at age 30. And the number one cause of accidental death for people 65 and over is attributed to falls.
Yes.
Why they fall? Because the muscle mass has deteriorated completely.
Yeah.
So that if we could start getting people to stay fitter, they would stay healthier and they would live longer. I mean, it is so much more to talk about, Ronnie. But the idea is that I don't do old age. I don't join that group at all.
Well, I'm interested in why you wrote this book. I know your age must be advancing. I have no idea what it is. But Pernell is 86.
88.
88, and I'm
in my 88 here.
And
I've just finished 87.
And I'm nearly 79.
And you're a perfect example of what the ankle leg can be. There's nothing decrepit or mashed up about you. You see, and so we need to start people to understand how do you get the best out of life all the way through, all the way
Dr.
through
Dr. Semaj, let me just tell you, it is right before our eyes. And most of who are not getting the best out of life know why they are not. When you sit down and take a bottle of white rum and show off and drink half of it, when you pick up a ganja sting and smoke till you're battering and you're laughing, when you know what is killing yourself. Now, take somebody who look at the opposite. Look at Semaj, what is showing me, and what I'm looking at you now, I'm surprised you look like you're 10 years younger. I don't know if it's a new picture.
Flattery will get you
so
everywhere.
Good. The point is that some of us would love to do it, but we are not educated. We are not being assisted.
But that's why he wrote the book.
So I want to please give me a copy of the book. I'm going to read it. Because trust me, there are too many around me that I would love to help.
Yeah.
Ronnie, I'll give you the last joke, Ronnie.
No, let him answer first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell us the last joke.
What I've just realized is that most Jamaicans don't read.
Well, you're asking me, or you're telling me?
Over those who read, and even more don't buy books.
So what? How can you publicize these ideas? Because it's really important that people in the local context hearing from someone who the public thinks of as being practical and wise gets to as wise as many of them as possible.
Well, first of all, there's an audio version which is available on my website, so you can just download and listen to it. You know, and I got an interesting call from somebody today who does gift packages, and she said she'd like to include this book in the gift packages she puts together for Christmas.
Why not?
I said, what a great idea!
Yes.
To give somebody a book like this so they can understand, you know. So we're trying to find ways and means of making sure we make the information available to as many people as possible.
You would like me to give you a way to sell the books that I have done? I have looked at several big people in the society. Some, like a man who have a big company with 50 and 60 people.
Yes.
I said, listen, I am packaging 25 books for you. I'd like you to give each of your supervisors one.
Yes.
I want you to call the Minister of Education and say, listen, I think every headmasters in Jamaica should have 2 or 3 of these books in the school.
And it works?
And the government, the Minister of Education, they must assist and purchase for the schools. Because what is in the school is what you need to say to the children, you know, what I'm and the parents.
I'm thinking about one, NIS. Let's start with NIS.
Yes.
If NIS gave every person,
they would have less calls. The health insurance,
exactly.
The health insurance companies,
the pension funds people.
Yes.
I spoke to the head of the Pension Fund Association.
Yes,
I want to put together a meeting because if you were give a copy of this book to all your people who are in pensions funds
and they follow
at age 50, they reduce. They can live much longer. And by the way, you mentioned education.
Yes.
There was an article in the New York Times yesterday that pointed out that the longevity gap in the US.
I saw that.
People who are less than a college education, they're way beyond those that who college and higher.
Behind those who have had more education and therefore are able to take care of themselves, to reach out to others, to have less psychological.
Absolutely. It is. You saw the gap, and the gap is getting wider.
Yeah, it's about 8 years or something like that.
Dr. Semaj,
yes.
The audio version that you have, there are a lot of people who can't read, but they can understand what they hear.
Oh, yes.
And if you get it out there, that is something, rather than watching TikTok, jumping up and down. They sit back and listen.
No, we're working on it. We're working on it.
Going to guide them and guide their life into the future.
But Leahcim, there are a lot of people who will say, boy, you know, that's all right for people like Charles and Semaj and Thwaites because they know where their dinner is coming from. The majority of the deterioration, the premature deterioration that takes place is due to prevailing economic circumstances. How do you reply?
You encourage them, Ronnie, that it is not late.
Let him reply.
No, you see, look, I have seen some of the most interesting people are people who literally, because of the understanding that they can turn their hand, make fashion. Oftentimes, we have to show them what they can do. One thing in the book, we talk about your encore career. What do you do now after retirement to keep the mind alive and to earn more money and to do things for your community and earn a living?
Yes.
So that we answer those questions too, because if persons don't know how they can make things happen, we talk about the family connection. Without it, you die. Because you need to. What can you do now for your younger generation, for your children, for your grandchildren, for your relatives? So we address those things because you can't just limit it to, all right, if you have the money. I remember I did the strategic plan for National Health Fund for the first 6 years.
Really?
And in year 1, the first thing I did was change the motto. The first motto was to ameliorate the cost of healthcare. I said, you will never be able to do that. How about you let people understand that your health is your responsibility?
Right. Wow.
That's what we changed it to. Because you can't provide enough drugs.
Yes.
But if people take responsibility lifestyle issues, behavior change issues are the most critical things.
But then you see, how do you do this within a society where if you look on the television advertisements at news time at night, two-thirds of them are for substances that can only make you unhealthy rather than healthy. Yes?
And on top of that, Ronnie, I've been commenting that people 50 and over have more spending power than those under 50.
Well,
yet still 90% of our media is talking to 18-year-olds and 25-year-olds.
Well, look at that. How do you deal with a situation where the bent of popularly of state-supported culture is that for dissoluteness and for hedonism, none of which is inuring to the best ways to secure longevity. I mean, the state is carrying us, the state broadly defined, mass media, the cultural elements are carrying us in the wrong direction.
Let me encourage you, Ronnie. Let me encourage you.
One proposed long time ago was that people sit on retirement, that same NIS fund, person should be able to apply for it for a grant, whatever the amount, to start a little business on the condition that they now employ 2 young people and they socialize them in terms of what their knowledge had with.
You're a social engineer, Mr. Charles, what you're saying.
I want to encourage you.
Yes, because we're ending up.
Because I see that you're getting discouraged at the current. Some of what is happening now, we can't blame them,
Blame who?
Who is involved now?
The government is short-sighted. The government...
Somebody has to take the responsibility now to transmit to them what Semaj is writing in his book, telling them how to do it.
Which is why we have
and
this
interview today. And this is why I'm glad that he has some audio part that if you can't read, you can't listen.
But the people
you can't listen.
Indeed.
No, they take the book and catch door. But they will listen. You buy my book and catch door. Don't open up the catch door.
Oh, I tell you, Lord.
Pernell, I have your book I bought your book, Pernell.
But it's not catching the door.
With you behind the bars, looking out. No, man.
Please, I would like to get the audio version.
Yes,
and a copy of the book.
Have you launched yet, Leahcim?
Not officially. I launched in Florida, but not officially in Jamaica yet.
Very well.
I'm in discussion with a bookstore to carry, so I'm meeting with them next week.
Give us the news.
I will definitely, Ronnie.
Yes. And thanks so much for today and always. Dr. Leahcim Semaj, well-known public psychologist and wise person about the important aspects of Jamaican life. What a diverse program we've had today, Mr. Charles.